Here at the Medicine Tail Coulee, you listen to the water, listen to the sounds of the water and the ponies on the western horizon. You see smoke coming up between the teepees. You can start to hear the village actually coming alive and people waking up. The evening beforehand, there was a huge celebration. It was a coming together of all of our people to hunt the buffalo and to foster and continue our traditional way of life. So it was a long celebration that went into the early morning hours. So most of the men were still sleeping. The women were getting up early and preparing some of the food, lighting some of the fires as the village begins to come to life. You hear the sounds of the river right before us. And on the western horizon, you hear the ponies, hundreds, possibly even thousands of head of horses on the western horizon. You see some of the warrior patrols circling the village, the cranes flying overhead, and the cotton beginning to fall from the cottonwood trees. At this point in time, the battle was about 6 hours away.
My name is Gray Wolf, and I'm from the Yoem tribe, Tucson, Arizona. And about this, one thing that kind of makes me laugh about the whole Custer deal, Custer's always portrayed as like the enemy of Native people. But in my studies on Custer, it was very interesting to find out that he was very pro-Native in a lot of his writings. He actually wrote letters to Congress in defense of the Native people. And that was something that people don't know. You know, even though his political aspirations overcame him, and that resulted in the so-called Custer massacre, but he was actually very pro-Native in a lot of his writings.
Panic went out throughout the village. There's an alert, Washichu, Washichu Champi, Washichu Champi. This was an alert that was sent throughout the village and had our warriors grab your weapons, grab your bow, grab whatever you can. Old women and children, go to the other end of the village. The soldiers are coming. Our members came running out of the village, some on foot, some on horseback. Now Reno was charging this direction. The trumpet was blowing. He stopped his charge at this point and set up a skirmish line right here. That was the best defensive tactic that they knew. So our people were coming here and bullets and arrows were flying by. They were returning fire. And as we got closer, because of the way the terrain is, kind of goes up and down like a roller coaster, like a snake. And we were able to get up close in some of the deep ravines and shooting arrows over, and we're picking off soldiers little by little. At one point in time, Custer's Chief Scout Bloody Knife was shot in the head, and the brains and the blood from the back of Bloody Knife splattered across Reno's face and on his hat. Well, at that point in time, Reno began to panic. He said, retreat. He called for the retreat, and all of his men were scattered and unorganized and confused and scared. So his men fell back to a position where they were actually chased beyond that tree line over there in the woods. They figured this is going to be a much better protection for us. This is going to be, it'll block some of the bullets and the arrows. We'll be able to hopefully get away.
Hi, my name is Marcos Akiatan, and I'm Chiricahua Apache. And I'm going to talk about, from what my understanding that was passed on to me through Lakota friends of mine, about Custer's Last Stand, or as they know it, or as we know it, as greasy grass. And the way it started off, in fact, the gentleman who told me about the story, his great-grandparents were actually on the southern part of the village when Reno attacked. And when Reno attacked, they were caught off guard when it actually went down. And when he said, I mean, it was just mad. It was just chaotic when he hit. And what they were totally unaware of, though, was that Custer was north of, or I guess it was northeast of them. So anyways, they're being attacked by Reno, and all the warriors, get ahead, jump on their horses, And the thing about it is not that the initial charge was not with rifles, it was a bow and arrow.
Oh, you sassy. Yeah, I think you want to be the road between two thorns.
I'm going to hold my tripod.
Double the cavalry. Leave?
Yeah, right quick. We got 14 hours.
Okay, next.
A symbol of one of our warrior societies. We had many different warrior societies that did various things for the tribe on a regular basis, not just going into battle and not just for hunting. The warrior societies some of the societies were military societies that would police the camp, that would actually take care of the women and children. Some of these societies were buffalo societies that were specifically to go on buffalo hunts, specifically geared to track down certain animals so that they could feed the homeless. Because even way back when, we did have orphans, and when people would die off on the plains, we would need to take care of them and take care of all of our people. So some of these societies would emulate these markings of like hailstones on their horse. And I'm going to put these on here, just a little of them, so you can kind of get an idea. Now what these hailstones emulate, similar to the hailstones that are on my body, is that in going on a hunt, sometimes we lose men and horses. These hailstones were more of a protectant, so that it would keep the buffalo away from them, and it would also keep them safe and carry them through and end up with a positive result. So if you can kind of get a good picture of that. Secondarily, like the hailstones are on my body, this is part of an individual vision that I've had. This is medicine that's been kind of handed down from generation to generation. And this is similar to a story that was told by Crazy Horse. His vision was of a fractious pony in the air, being ridden by a warrior with unbound hair across the plains. Streaks of lightning bolt came from the sky and through a hailstorm. So these hailstorms, and he took that to emulate as his own personal medicine. Well, since every warrior walks his own path, whether you're part of a warrior society or not, you emulate that medicine on your body as well as your horse. So these hailstones will protect me if I'm going into battle. I'm painted up right now actually to go into war. So with the face paint, the lightning marks on my face basically emulate the fact that I'm using the thunder beam's light energy, and of course the white streaks on my eyes are for clearer vision and carrying me through to my objective. This is also of course emulated on the horse. And what I'll do here, and this is a lot of the warrior societies as well, in going into battle or buffalo hunt, and it really depends on which one. If you're going into a buffalo hunt, you use more of the blue. If you're going into battle, you use more of the red or the black. And that's pretty consistent throughout, the 19th century. But you put stripes, which we consider coup stripes, on the legs of your horse. So if you can see this from a distance, then you understand, it gives you more of an idea of who you're dealing with, so to speak, based on the horses that they're riding. Because we had specific horses for specific things. We had buffalo ponies that were buffalo runners. These horses were specifically to go into for buffalo hunts. These were horses that were, very lean. They were used to charging animals. And in many cases, there are stories where we'd train the horses to charge a tree, and then at the very last minute with our knees, give them the signal to kind of veer off. And this is how we would kind of get them going to charge the buffalo. Because as you can imagine, the buffalo is in many cases bigger than this horse itself. And it's kind of a scary event. So painting up the horses also gave the warriors extra confidence to carry out what duty they had ahead of them. So that's just kind of an example of the hailstones, the dragonfly, and the coup marks on the horse for going into battle. But there's one other thing that I wanted to show, is that if we had someone die in battle, or someone that was severely wounded, one of the many things that we would do, whether this was going into battle or on a buffalo hunt, is we would put a yellow handprint on the horse. Now you've seen this in Hollywood movies. A lot of people don't really understand what it symbolizes, but this is usually a sign of mourning, if you will. So I'm going to try and do this. I've got a little bit of grease paint here, just to kind of give you an idea of what this would look like. Should stand out pretty nicely on the black. I couldn't agree with you more. So this would be for like a sign of mourning. But I don't know if you can really make that out very well. kind of outline the fingers here for you. Now, because a lot of the tribes were very, very different, we did have similar characteristics, of course. The painting of the ponies, the paintings of the paint on our bodies, the ceremonies that we go through. But a lot of the tribes were also very, very different in many ways. In some cases, for Lakota people, we use a symbol of yellow for a symbol of mourning. I know that some of the other Plains nations, the Blackfoot tribe uses a white handprint. But overall, it's the same thing. It's consistent with the same symbol, just different colors, because to different tribes, they represent different things. Can you make that out okay? I'm trying to outline it a little bit more. Oh, you know what? We should have bought like a water bottle or something. That's okay. Now, a lot of the paint technology that we used to use in the 19th century came from earth paints or powder paints. And these were fine minerals that were from the earth that would be ground into a fine powder and then mixed with like a bear grease or a bear fat. And that's how we came up with our paint technology. So for the red, we'd use red earth clay. For the blue, we would use duck manure. A lot of people don't realize this, but when ducks defecate, if you will, it's blue, and it would be dried and ground into a fine powder and mixed with a bear fat. And so that's where we get the blue paint. This is not duck manure. This is grease paint. Yellow would also be from the earth minerals within the brown grass. And I mean, so we've taken all of our material, if you will, from Mother Earth or from nature. And this is how we develop this technology. And this helps us emulate not only, of course, our own visions, but of course what holds us through when we're going into battle. Now, the last thing that I'm going to show you here is I'm going to paint, and I know that you've seen this in Hollywood movies. There's a circle around the eye. And what this is it identifies the owner with that horse, and it keeps its horse healthy through battle so that he can see clearly and help carry the horse through. This was really more for the horse, more so than the warrior itself. But the traditional belief is that will help steer the horse clear of danger, if you will. Because back then, we utilized the horse for virtually everything. We counted our wealth with the horse. We bought our status with the horse. There you go. And there you have it. I mean, these are just some brief examples of some of the symbols that you'll see on traditional horses. Primarily Lakota horses with the colors that we utilize to symbol the medicine that would carry the horse and rider through to battle. Most of them were Southern Tassistas, and in fact, there's a rumor that he even had an affair, if you will, with a Cheyenne woman, and they had a daughter. It was a blonde-haired daughter that they called Yellowbird, but she actually died at 3 years old of cholera. So, I mean, but because of that, though, I mean, the Cheyenne at the battle, they wanted us to have pity on him. They didn't want us to like scalp him or anything of that nature, or mutilate the body, if you will. So what they did is the Cheyenne women would puncture his ears with their sewing awls, because that they told Custer that if they brought war on the Cheyenne, that they would end his life. And so they punctured his ears with sewing awls because in the next life they hoped that maybe he would hear better. That's the school of thought behind that.
Okay, so
At the Battle of the Greasy Grass, better known as the Battle of the Little Bighorn, the way things happened, we were not there expecting a battle. We were there to gather, to festival, to recoup and reclaim a lot of our traditional ways of life. We had gotten together to go on a buffalo hunt and really live the lives that our grandfathers had lived. When the soldiers arrived, General Custer and his men, we were not expecting a battle. We had been up celebrating the night before with lots of games and songs and stories, so most of the men were asleep by the time that Reno's men started entering I believe the south side of the village. So what happened is, as far as paint technology on the horses, there wasn't a whole lot of time for us to paint up our horses and paint up our bodies and to really get ready.